When I was a little kid, death and I became fast acquaintances. One of my grandmas died when I was 4, and the next one when I was 9. And by the time I was 22, I had lost all of my grandparents. Their departures piqued my curiosity about death, and I believe that early exposure played a role in my decision to become a hospice volunteer later in life. I wanted to get closer and possibly understand this enigmatic force that had taken so many loved ones from my life. Volunteering with the dying taught me that there are as many ways to approach death as there are to live. But those who leaned into their experience, instead of resisting it, demonstrated the power of death positivity. While it may sound grim, understanding the role of death in life can actually be incredibly empowering. So buckle up as we embark on a journey through the fascinating history of death in America, explore the benefits of being death positive, and uncover the transformative power of using our own mortality to fuel personal growth. And stick around at the end to hear about how some other cultures around the world deal with death. Before funeral homes, death was a much more intimate, hands-on affair. Up until the 1860s, families in America cared for their deceased loved ones at home. This process, known as home funerals, would involve washing, dressing, and preparing the body for burial, often with the help of the community. Neighbors pitched in, building the coffin or preparing the shroud, digging graves, cooking meals, or sitting with the body for 2 to 3 days. The body would be laid out in the parlor or living room, and friends and neighbors would gather for the wake, paying their respects and offering comfort to the grieving family. Then the Civil War happened, and embalming started to gain popularity in America as a way to preserve the bodies of fallen soldiers. Embalming fluids, initially made from arsenic, later replaced with formaldehyde, temporarily prevented the body from decaying. The internal organs would be removed since they are the prime site for decomposition. These gooey insides were replaced with sawdust to maintain the body's form, and they would fill the body's circulatory system with some kind of preservative. This process allowed the bodies to stay fresh longer, so they could be sent home for burial. It was a practical innovation for the time, as trains were the go-to mode for transporting bodies. But those lengthy journeys, particularly during sweltering summer months, sometimes became a macabre spectacle of decaying passengers. Thankfully, with the arrival of embalming, those gruesome voyages were transformed, giving the dearly departed a much-needed upgrade to a fresher, more dignified reunion with their next of kin. After his assassination in 1865, President Lincoln's death further popularized the practice. During his funeral procession, Lincoln's body was paraded on a 3-week journey to his final resting place in Springfield, Illinois. But there was a hitch. A weeks-long trip meant decomposition would be an unwelcome guest. Cue embalming, the hero of the hour. With Lincoln looking spiffy on display, embalming got its marketing moment across America and convinced people of its merits. With its growing popularity, funeral traditions expanded beyond the home. Bodies could be more easily transported and displayed, and funerals could be held later after death, allowing more people to attend. As urbanization and industrialization progressed, people began to live in smaller, more crowded spaces. Towns grew into cities, community gave way to anonymity, and home funerals became less practical. Even close friends may find it challenging to break away from their new urban lives to lend a hand during the potentially multi-day process of vigil, funeral, and burial. After all, city life is about go, go, go. Additionally, at the turn of the 20th century, a prevailing idea was planted that the dead body was dangerous. This myth led people to believe that highly specialized care was required to handle the deceased, even though that was rarely the case. Unless the person who died had a rare infectious disease, for example Ebola, it was not required that professionals handle the body. But this false narrative that a body must be embalmed and that families no longer had the right to care for their own dead helped surge the use of funeral homes. With the advent of funeral homes, our relationship with death started to become more distant as the process of handling the deceased was outsourced. It shifted from community-led funerals to professionals in the industry. And this shift contributed to the increasing taboo surrounding death and our discomfort with discussing it openly. But let's flip the script, fellow mortals. We should discuss our relationship with the Grim Reaper, because becoming death positive can actually enhance our lives. A study in Personality and Social Psychology review found that when death taps us on the shoulder, we suddenly become masters of time management. That gentle nudge from the Grim Reaper can inspire us to seize the day and live our best lives. When reminded of our impending doom, we start making healthier choices. We're slathering on sunscreen like nobody's business, giving cigarettes the cold shoulder, and pumping iron like we're auditioning for a superhero movie. This newfound awareness of our finite existence can also encourage us to invest quality time with our loved ones. You might be wondering how to get in on this death-positive action. Just a quick clarification before we continue. Death positivity doesn't mean you're thrilled after someone has died or you're gunning for your own demise. The death positive movement is all about shaking things up and demystifying the inevitable. Its mission? To foster awareness and inspire open and honest conversations about death and dying. For the death positive crowd, chatting about the great beyond isn't a taboo affair. Instead, discussing mortality is a way to break the silence and spark dialogue about the one certainty we all share, that life is a death sentence. One small way to start your check-in with death involves thinking about what you would like to do before you die. Make a good old-fashioned bucket list. Go ahead and jot down those skydiving adventures and cross-country road trips. By identifying what we want to achieve during our limited time on Earth, we're more likely to prioritize those meaningful experiences and live a life aligned with our values. And there's no better way to start than articulating what you want to do during this earthly adventure. YOLO, right? Since we're on the roll with expressing ourselves, we can take another step in the death-positive direction by putting our death wishes in writing and eventually making them official. Consider these practical examples. Do you want a traditional funeral or something more unique, like a Viking send-off? Who do you trust to carry out your last wishes? If you have pets, who will take care of them when you're gone? Who gets your prized possessions? Thinking about and documenting these decisions now can save your family a whole lot of stress and confusion later on. Because most of my grandparents died earlier than expected, I think their deaths spurred my parents to be more proactive in discussing their end-of-life wishes with me. We've already had conversations they weren't afforded with their own parents. Even though my mom and dad are in their 60s and still healthy, they've documented how they want to be buried, set up their wills, and told me where their important possessions are. And this will soon be a two-way street. Doing the research for this video has encouraged me to start the process of doing the same, even though I am half their age, because death doesn't discriminate. Encouraging dialogue about mortality doesn't have to end with family. There's a unique opportunity to engage with others in a death cafe. These are informal gatherings where open-minded individuals can engage in thought-provoking conversations about death. The idea originated in Switzerland in 2004 and has since spread worldwide, attracting those who seek a safe space to explore the topic. Each death cafe is unique, as the discussions are participant-driven. They can range from philosophical debates to practical end-of-life planning. You might find yourself delving into the meaning of life, sharing anecdotes about loved ones who've passed away, or even discussing your funeral preferences. Attending a death cafe can be a transformative experience, allowing you to face the reality of mortality head-on and gain insights from other people's perspectives. For more steps that you can take to foster your death positivity, check out the video card from Ask a Mortician on highly effective habits of death-positive people. Embracing my mortality has led to a more intentional life, especially as I have used the mindset as a tool for personal growth. During my time as a hospice volunteer, my role in the palliative care structure was to have social visits with my patients. I spent my time reading out loud, watching television, discussing life, massaging hands, or playing board games with people in the last months of their life. I learned something from every person, but I'll never forget this one lady who screamed like a banshee whenever I entered her room and wouldn't stop until I left. Let's call her Wanda. I later found out that Wanda was like that with everyone at the end of her life, including her own family, but I never found out what caused Wanda's condition. I always filed her interactions under the section of my end-of-life notes entitled, How Not to Die. Ever since that encounter, I've always tried to reframe my own mortality as a tool for change and personal growth, rather than something morbid and terrifying. It's made me filter the experiences in my life with this sense of urgency, to go after and focus on the things that are important to me, as death can knock on our door at any time. While I don't officially know why Wanda behaved that way, I suspect that some part of it was because she was terrified to die or full of regret. As we cultivate the courage to acknowledge our own mortality, we join a chorus of brave souls who have turned the concept of death into a liberating force, enabling them to lead extraordinary lives. Apple co-founder Steve Jobs shared his perspective on death during his 2005 Stanford commencement speech. He talked about a quote he read somewhere that went along the lines of, "If you live each day as if it was your last, someday you'll most certainly be right." Since then, he looked in the mirror every morning and asked himself, if today were the last day of his life, would he want to do what he was about to do today? And he knew he needed to change something whenever the answer was no for too many days in a row. By reminding himself daily of his mortality, Jobs pushed aside fear and external expectations, freeing himself to follow his heart and make courageous choices. He understood that harnessing the power of life's brevity can help us fuel our zest for living and focus on what truly matters. Death doesn't have to be lurking in the shadows. By shining some light on our mortality and using it as a catalyst for change, we can use the fact that we will die as a gauge. Simply measured, are the things currently in our life the things we want to pursue? And if not, death is a reminder to chase more authentic, purposeful expressions. So dance with death and see where it leads you. In the rich tapestry of the human experience, the threads of life and death are woven together in many different colorful patterns. Each culture offers a unique understanding of death's role in our lives. We'll make a few pit stops around the globe and explore how different cultures have unique ways of handling death. Sky burial, Tibet. In Tibet, the traditional sky burial involves placing the deceased's body on a mountaintop and allowing nature to take its course. Vultures and other scavengers consume the remains, ultimately returning them to the cycle of life. Hanging coffins, Sagada, Philippines. In the Sagada region of the Philippines, people hang their dead relatives' coffins on the sides of cliffs. This age-old tradition is believed to bring the deceased closer to the spirits, making their passage to the afterlife smoother. It's like an eternal scenic resting spot. Famadihana, Madagascar. The Malagasy people of Madagascar practice a ritual called Famadihana, or the turning of the bones. Families exhume their ancestors' remains every few years, rewrap them in fresh cloth, and dance with the wrapped corpses to music. It's a grand family reunion that brings the living and the dead together. Endocannibalism, Yanomami tribe, Brazil. The Yanomami people in Brazil have a unique way of keeping their loved ones close. They cremate the deceased and mix the ashes with a plantain soup, which the tribe then consumes. Although it might sound shocking to some, it's a way for the Yanomami to preserve the spirit of the departed within the community. Jazz funerals, New Orleans, USA. In New Orleans, jazz funerals are a unique way to celebrate life while mourning the dead. A brass band leads the funeral procession, playing somber tunes at first, then transitioning to lively, upbeat music. Friends and family join in, dancing in the streets and celebrating the life that was lived. Now that's a swinging send-off. The concept of a good death is deeply personal. People around the world have developed their own customs and rituals to honor their deceased. A person defines it, a family defines it, a community defines it. What constitutes a meaningful and fulfilling farewell for me may not resonate with you, and that's okay. Hopefully, learning about a few of these different perspectives will inspire you to define that for yourself. As the poet Rainer Maria Rilke once said, "Death is our friend precisely because it brings us into absolute and passionate presence with all that is here, that is natural, that is love." By embracing the role of death in life, we can break free from fear, prioritize what truly matters, and live more authentic and purposeful lives. So, let's transform our thinking, become death positive, and embark on a journey of utilizing death as a powerful catalyst for connection and change.